now, not where you want to be. Really, you can't look yourself in the mirror. Just disappointed with the man or a woman that you see in the mirror, and going from broken to becoming whole. We want to reiterate on the show that transformation isn't pretending that life never hurt, because it does. Life will
Right.
throw curveballs, fastballs, sliders, all types of things at you. But it's really about letting God rebuild you from the inside out so you can finally look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm proud of who I'm becoming.
Absolutely.
So we're really going to hit in and talk about how you can go from a broken person to becoming whole. And the reason why this is so important is we talk about, career aspirations and real estate and purchasing a
Hmm.
home,
Hmm.
relationships, things of that nature. When you're a broken person,
Right.
then to accomplish anything is going to make it 10 times harder.
Right.
And then your focus won't be there.
Right.
So, how do you become a person that, regardless of your background, regardless of the hurt, regardless of being broken, going from where you're at
Hmm.
to a person who you're proud to be? To be.
Right.
Anything you want to hit on before as we get into today's show?
Yeah, I mean, transformation is always important. One thing about it is that I think one of the things that have kind of come to understand about transformation, it starts from the inside,
Mm-hmm.
right? They always say once you realize that the things on the outside of you um, doesn't dictate who you are, but you dictate who you are, and that empowers you to understand that you can transform your life as many times as you want and as how far as you want.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's a transforming thing especially as men, we need a lot of times look on the inside internally to really understand that you can't be a broken person, especially a broken man. It's something that it's a tough life. It's a very tough life. So one of the things you always want to do is always take time, even if you have to get away or just seclude yourself, right, and just focus on yourself because to say the hardest thing for most people to do is look themselves in the mirror
Right.
because
Right.
now they got to face the person without any distractions around them of who they really are, right? So I mean, yeah. So I mean, I wanted this is a great topic we're going to be discussing today about life transformation or real life transformation, because I love seeing that. I love feeling that too, and I
Right.
can't tell you how much that it does change your life and your trajectory of your life.
So we're gonna hit on some scripture tonight, and we're gonna use the NLT transcribed version because I like that one. I know some of y'all used to New King James and NIV, but we're gonna do NLT today. And the first scripture we're going to talk about is 2 Corinthians 5:17, where it says, "This means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old
Hmm.
life is gone, and a new life has begun."
Right.
Um, and that has a lot to do. I think about you talking about baptism, where you're talking about where you're baptized and you go in your old self and you come out your new self.
Right.
It's a physical manifestation of being rebirthed.
Right.
And this scripture isn't saying that your past disappears. It means that your past no longer defines your future.
Right.
Um, and a lot of times you get people in your life who know the old you, will still remind you of the old you,
Hmm.
even when you're trying to become the new you.
Right.
And so you have to know that transformation starts when you stop introducing yourself by your worst season.
Right.
Because we all have it.
Right.
We all have it where, financially, mentally, physically,
Right.
emotionally, where we weren't who we should have been.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that defines who you are. It just means that that was a moment in time. And you also have to stop replaying old versions of yourself.
Mm.
Um, how you think and what you say to yourself is
Right.
more important than what anybody else says and thinks about you.
Right.
You have to allow growth to be louder than your guilt. I'm gonna
Right.
repeat that. Your growth has to be louder than your guilt.
Right.
Um, one example that we have is, you remember that and I liked it because it was a real life situation. You remember that movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, that
Yeah.
Will Smith
Yeah.
played in?
Yeah.
And that guy, Chris Gardner, the main character.
Mm-hmm.
When you watch the movie, he was homeless, broke, written off. His wife left him.
Mm-hmm.
He lost his apartment. He had a small business selling those machines for doctors to use.
Right.
I forget what it was to do, but it was a machine for doctors to use, so they can better read scans.
Right.
And he went into this business, him and his family, and they said, we're going to become successful. We're going to make it. We're going to be all right. And it didn't work out that way.
Right.
His wife blamed him for making a bad decision. She was at a point where she didn't want to be there anymore.
Right.
They had a young kid that they had to take care of.
Right.
And you're not selling. Your family's mad at you.
Right.
You got a little one, and you can't pay rent.
Right.
And you lost your home. You got to think how down and out you've been.
Right.
You're sleeping in public bathrooms, locking the door, sleeping in public bathrooms, sleeping on the buses and the trolleys and things of that nature. I mean, his situation was not good.
Right.
Especially from someone who saw something better.
Right.
But the good thing that movie taught me was that situation was temporary. It wasn't permanent.
Right.
The man's very successful. He became a successful stockbroker.
Right.
Entered that class, passed it, and that was many moons ago.
Right.
Now imagine had he decided that this is who I am. I'm a stake-ridden person. I make bad decisions. I'm not a good business owner. I'm not smart enough. I can't support my family. Imagine if he just stuck there.
Yeah.
Then he wouldn't have created the opportunities not only for himself, but for others to become successful.
True.
So a lot of times your individual growth isn't just about you growing, but it's also about those who are around you who can see the transformation or get to know you after the transformation and do that to help you grow.
Right. Right. So there's a saying and is like failure is a part of success. Without any type of failure in life, you can be successful.
Right.
Right. So you have to be able to fail first and learn from those failures. And that's something that they don't really teach us much, because a lot of times what we always see, everybody is like the life of Facebook, the life of social media, where we always see the successes.
Yeah.
Now we have AI where we can be anybody we want now. So we always going to put on that good side. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, take my good side. You know what I'm saying? So you can put out, and I've learned this in real estate. Now there's a
take my good side.
Right, take the good side, take the good picture.
Filters and all that.
All that stuff. So nothing wrong with that. And I'm not down in that. Everybody has a fantasy of themselves, right? But at the same time, too, in real estate now, there's this new legislation that came out because of AI, right? Because AI has now created where it almost looks as real. So you can put anything in any situation.
You mean like pictures?
Yeah, pictures, videos, everything. You can be anything in AI. The reality of it is so crazy, right? It's never had anything like that before. So you can take a picture and say, hey, add this and make it look real. And the more you get detail in AI, is the more reality you can put on it, right? And people are becoming very skilled at that. So we're realizing that they have this new law where you have to now stamp or put a disclosure on any pictures that is posted online about a home, especially if you're putting it on the MLS, that it has been artificially enhanced, right? So you have to now do that, right? Because it's become so dangerous. Now, I believe there's a law that's going to come down pretty soon on AI that's going to say, hey, because you can put, it's kind of like this. I'm looking at Michael Jackson almost being alive today in so many different scenarios. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. But at the same time, too, why I'm saying this is because, number one, is that you got to understand what that's why they call it artificially enhanced or artificial intelligence. It's not real, right? You still got to put in the hard work, which is the number one, but go through that process and that grinding, right? Because everybody wants a diamond to become a diamond until they realize how much pressure they got to put you under, right? You know what I'm saying? So everybody wants to look at social media, become that diamond, and take the easy path until they realize how much pressure they have to be under to become that diamond, right? So, but it's that pressure that is needed to actually become that rare individual, right? So failure is nothing but and I tell people it's like this: failure and obstacles in life is nothing but an indicator that you set a goal. That's all that is. Is that you set a goal and you're going after it. Like the same guy, Chris Gardner. I mean, he didn't really know what he wanted to do, right? He was trying out so many things, right? At the same time, too, it wasn't just a right away thing where he went into he saw the process of him feeling to get to where he wanted, but he just wanted to be successful. Right. Because he could have given up, right? If he didn't get a chance. But that's the thing. You never know what opportunity is going to come. So you always got to be prepared. You have to go through those failures, and those failures are going to prepare you for the time when that opportunity comes. And now you can excel at that opportunity, right? Because there's so many things that you're downloading when you are going through the grind, when you are going through the process, when you are failing. You know what I'm saying? You're creating a mindset of, you're working the muscle of never giving up.
So, and we use the real life scenario, and then we also have a real life biblical scenario too of transformation, ultimate transformation from Saul to Paul. Right. In the Bible. He was a Christian persecutor. He was hating for real. Right, he was drinking all the haterade back then. He was on Christians, and he was a feared and hated man until he saw the light. Right, and once he saw the true light, he became the Bible's greatest missionary. Spreading the gospel, spreading the word of God, and almost most of the New Testament that we see, he wrote. Right. So, and this fits perfectly because Chris Gardner's, the Sauls, even more Saul, where he definitely was a person that no one really aspires to be. Meaning, he became feared not because of his greatness, but because of his hatred. And that person doesn't live as a respected legend, but they looked at as someone who lives in infamy. And so the fact that he was able to turn that around and become a man of faith, a man of God, we read his word to this day and follow scripture, that if you're not following what Paul wrote in a lot of his books that he wrote in the New Testament, that you're not walking the right line of God. Right. So that's just another proof that regardless of where you are at, even at no matter what age and stage you're at in your life, that you can still change it around. Right. So the question we have for the audience when you're listening is, who are you still judging yourself by? Your past self or your growing self? Another thing we want to talk about is the importance of faith from surviving and surrendering. This comes from Romans 12:2. Again, we're reading NLT, New Living Translation, where it says, "Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think." That one's difficult. And all this is difficult. But that one's difficult because you're used to customs, traditions, right, a way of life, and most people do things based on examples that they see, right, from their family members, from their friends, from those who they interact with, right. And to have the mindset of, I'm going to be who God's called me to be, and not be of this world, in this world, but not of this world. I mean, that really takes a lot of faith and fortitude. Transformation isn't just about prayer; it's about rewiring through patterns. from always being like this to I'm learning and healing, from reacting to responding, to from fear-based decisions to faith-based decisions. So God changes lives by changing habits, not just circumstances. So there's a lot of things out there that we have to face with,
right,
that we have no control over.
No control over. Zero control.
How you respond to it,
right,
is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times, you ever heard people say, "Well, this is just who I am." Accept me as I am.
Right.
You're not giving yourself any room to grow and be better. You have defined yourself for the rest of your life. You have defined yourself by whether to be good or bad habits. But for those specifically bad habits, you have defined yourself that, you know what, my bad habits is just who I am. I smoke, this is just who I am.
That's true.
I curse and say bad words, and I react angrily when somebody does something wrong to me. This is just who I am.
Right.
When that may how you feel at the time, but you can definitely change how you respond to it.
Right. True. I mean, one of the things that kind of leads me back to is kind of like working on myself. I had to realize, number one, the hardest thing for me was they told me is that you have to respect, in order for you to actually really understand somebody and build rapport with somebody, you have to respect their model of the world.
Okay.
Right. Because everybody's going to have a different filter. My filter is not going to be yours. It's going to be always different. It's like how you filter information. It's kind of like this. It's like you read the Bible. Let's give an example of the Bible.
Okay.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They all experienced Jesus. But when you read it, it's the same time frame, same experience, but difference in how they actually explaining it.
Right.
Right. Because they all had a different filter in how they actually saw things and interpreted things. Right. And that's how we all are. So one of the things I had to learn is that you have to respect the person's model of the world, how they see the world. But you have to understand also that's the harder part. It's where people are not their behaviors.
Right.
Right. So when you're saying, hey, I am, this is who I am. No, it's not who you are. It's who you choose to be.
Right.
Right. Because you have a choice. No, and when you're giving that choice away, just keep in mind, it's kind of like you're saying to yourself that, number one, my choices are determined by how everybody determines the world. It's kind of like you're saying you're giving your freedom away to somebody to determine your choice, right? Because if your choice is not congruent, or if it's not cohesive or ecological, or it's not benefiting people, you are making bad choices.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So when these things are not lining up and you're saying, oh, this is who I am and nobody's going to change me. No, you have to understand, once you take back accountability of it, you have to take it back, because this is who you choose to be. And what you're going to understand is that the behaviors have to change. I can accept anybody. It doesn't matter skin color, it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter how you talk. I can accept anybody, except, number one, your behaviors cannot affect me negatively. Right? That's the main thing. That's the boundary that I have set for my peace, which is your behavior cannot affect me in a negative way. Right? So I'm not, and it's my choice, because what people don't understand is that God has given us an amazing thing, which is called, we have the choice. Right? We make that choice. Just like Paul made that choice to change, right? Because he had to hit the rock bottom, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what it takes.
He saw the light,
right? Right. Sometimes that's what it takes. But at the same time, too, it takes, number one, a lot of us have an ego. A lot of us have some pride that as men, we have to understand that when we take accountability of where we're at, and we understand that this is the choices that I made to put me there, nothing else, then we start understanding, hey, you know what? We start taking back our power of choice, where we start making the right choices, doing the right behaviors. So yes, survive and surrendering, as you said, from surviving to surrendering. That's kind of how I look at it, right? Where we say, I'm always be like this to learning and healing. right? From reacting to responding, right? Because a lot of us react instead of actually we respond to things, right? So there's two differences, and then from fear-based decisions to faith-based decisions.
Fear-based to faith-based. That's what I'm talking about. So, I mean, like, perfect example in the Bible, Daniel. Obviously famous for being in that den,
right?
The lion's den. And when he was captured in the Bible by the Babylonians, he was pressured to eat their food, worship their gods, adopt their beliefs, and he stuck with his belief, which is why they put him in the lion's den.
Pretty much.
And then when they saw that he wasn't touched, and the lion was there chilling,
right?
He's there chilling,
the lion's like, nah, I'm gonna mess with that one.
they was like, he's got some,
right?
So Daniel, he didn't copy current culture.
Mm-hmm.
He protected his thinking. He stayed spiritually disciplined.
Right.
He let God shape his identity. Just like when they were talking about eat this food, and he said, we won't see how we're going to be versus how your other soldiers are going to be.
Right.
And so when he was eating the the vegetables,
right,
and when he decided to eat that, he saw how much stronger
mm-hmm.
and healthier he looked compared to those who weren't eating the quality of food that he was eating. So, which is why they had the Daniel fast, taking up his diet.
Right.
So Daniel was an example of someone in the Bible who, bless you, who decided that regardless of where he was at in the
mm-hmm.
world, regardless of what religious beliefs, structure, leadership was
mm-hmm.
involved, that he was going to stay spiritually connected to God.
Right.
And because of that, God protected him.
Right.
So small changes compound into massive life shifts. God often transforms us daily,
mm-hmm.
not dramatically. So just as a reminder, as we are making these changes, it's not something that you're going to change overnight.
Right.
Each day work on getting 1% better.
Pretty much
1% better, just a little bit.
That's it. And celebrate those small wins. And I'll leave you with this this proverb from Proverbs 23:7. It says, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he."
Amen. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he.
Right.
So, and on to things about like emotional and mental healing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go to Psalms,
mm-hmm.
Psalms 34:18, and it says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed." Ain't that a good God?
Right.
I mean, it's not just when
God.
It's the good times that God is with you.
Right.
It's when your spirit is broken, you're down and out. You're like the Chris Gardners.
Right.
You're like those who been in his situation, drug addicted, down and out,
right,
hit rock bottom, and God is with you.
Right.
Being broken doesn't disqualify you. It positions you for your healing.
Right.
What's that term? You got to do your step back for your comeback.
Right.
But it's something like that. Right. So what healing looks like for individuals who decide that they want to get better is setting boundaries, truly asking for help. And let me talk about the importance of truly asking for help. So I'm seeing situations where I've talked to people and they're in a bad spot,
right?
Mentally, emotionally, and they didn't ask for help.
Right.
There's a particular situation I became aware of that this person was not eating right. This person was not sleeping right.
Right.
And this person was stressing. And when they finally was talking to someone that was trying to help them, they were asking, basically, how did you get here to this point?
Right.
And they said that they don't like asking for help, that they didn't like asking for help. And that person explained to them, well, anyone who's done anything worthwhile in his life have always asked for help, even when they didn't want it, or even if they didn't want to ask. No successful individual has not asked for help from somebody. Anyone who tells you that they did it
Right.
on their own is not true.
Right.
Now, you did it on your own when it comes to your motivation. You did it on your own when it came to your vision. You did it on your own when it came to your just decision on this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
But you didn't do it on your own with all the knowledge because there will always be more that you don't know that you do know.
Right.
So the moment that you understand that is the moment you can start asking for help.
Right.
So, and then also too, and this is a problem I'm working with too, is saying no without guilt too.
Right.
I heard Warren Buffett say he says no way more than he says yes.
Right.
And I think that's great because the reason why he was such a great investor is because he wasn't distracted by a lot of different things.
Right.
He was honed in, he was focused on being where he wanted to be. He called it the strike zone.
Right.
So, baseball great Ted Williams.
Right.
He had a book about hitting,
Mm-hmm.
and he talked about the strike zone. And Ted Williams is known as the greatest base hitter of all time.
Right.
I personally like Tony Gwynn, but that's just me being from San Diego. But he talks about the reason why he was such a great hitter is because he only hit pitches from a certain area strike zone.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else he did not swing at.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to limit all the things you say yes to, because once you say yes to certain, that gives you commitment to do something that you may not have the time, energy to do.
Right.
The wherewithal to do. So saying no without guilt means you're protecting yourself.
Right.
Someone asks you to go someplace where you know you shouldn't go.
Right.
Say no.
Right.
Someone asks you to do a task that you know you're not capable of doing, or you don't have time to do, or you can't do to the best of your ability.
Right.
Say no.
Mm.
And a lot of times people feel guilty because they say no because they feel like they're letting the person that asked them down.
Right. Right.
But that's not the intent in mind. And a lot of times you have to be clear on your intent. Is my intent isn't just to say no. It's because I have to be honed in and focused on what I'm doing.
Right.
So choosing peace over chaos.
Right.
That's important.
Right.
And we can go, that's a whole day's topic right there. Choosing peace over chaos.
Right.
Making sure that when you do respond to someone who does something you don't like,
right,
responding in a way that provides peace and not destruction.
Right.
So,
yeah, those healing. I mean, and this is what as you put it here, healing. This is what healing looks like. Absolutely, because I mean, once you start working on yourself and you start like looking introspectively about how you make decisions and the results of the decisions of the past. Like you mentioned some about the past, and they say the past can bring you anywhere new in the future.
No.
Thinking on the past, right? So once you understand that, and you start understanding that the tough times from your past gauge how you actually create the present so that you can have a better future, right? So setting boundaries is very, very important. One of those things is that setting boundaries is you are going to, once you start setting boundaries, you are going to like your past, which maybe your comfort zone becomes a little bit radical. I always tell people it's like, because when you set boundaries, that means some of the friends you might have had are not going to be around, right? Mm-hmm. Some of they might drop off, because you set boundaries now. Now, I always say your friends respect who you're becoming and who you are, right? If you're doing something for the better to better your life, it's now on them to actually either keep up with you or learn from you, but never it's on you to go back down to the level that you were there before, right? And some people, and that's that comfort zone that most people are, because number one, once you start setting boundaries, I'm not saying the boundaries are going to, you set boundaries on your, number one, your peace, what brings you peace. Mm-hmm. So you're choosing peace over chaos. Mm-hmm. And some people love chaos. Some people like it, they thrive on that, right? So it's like, if you're choosing, and if you know somebody's thriving on chaos, that really doesn't bring anything that's long-term.
I wonder why.
And I
I
think
wonder why people thrive on
chaos.
chaos.
I think because there's. I mean, I think that's a comfort zone, right? As I said, some people it depends upon the environment they were taught, that they grew up in. It depends upon who they are and how they think, right? It depends upon a lot of different things and how they actually filter things in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what might be chaotic to them is something that's very simple, right? You can look at it and say 1 + 1 is 2, right? But they would look at it and say 1 + 1 - 2 equals, and they go all the way around before they get the answer. They are going to get the answer, but they create all this action within it. So they get the attention they need, they get all the things that they need to actually get it done, and that's how they thrive, right? While at the same time too, in any scientific experiment, right? If you look at any how math is done, when they apply math, they have to bring it down to 0. Right. So it's kind of like you have to simplify it. So it might be chaotic when you see all this chaos and the formula in front of you. What they're trying to do in order for it to see it, what they're trying to do in physics and math and any type of mathematical formula is they're trying to bring it down to 0. So so that means it's actually working, right? It's going to work, right? So that's what's I believe that choosing peace is like. Bring it down to 0.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Bring it down to 0. So that means you can understand that it's going to work.
But when there is chaos,
right,
having the mindset that no matter what happens, you're going to respond the right way. That brings you peace.
Absolutely.
Because in a lot of cases, you cannot change someone else's thinking and actions.
Right.
One thing you can do is respond on how you react.
Exactly.
I one time was dealing with a situation where this individual was making me so angry and upset.
Right.
And they knew how to really like they that red button. They say don't push.
Right.
Don't push this button.
Right.
This person knew they weren't just like pushing it like this. They was hitting it as hard as they.
Right.
And I was talking to my mentor about it, and my mentor said, "William, you got to keep it as cool as ice."
Absolutely.
Keep it as cool as ice.
Absolutely.
And I was like, "Oh man," but they keep, William, you got to keep it as cool as ice. And I said, "Well, what if I mess up?" He said, the next day, you do better the next day.
That's all. Yeah, that's all.
You do better
day by
the
day.
Yeah.
One of the things I'll point out to you is this: is that I tell people there's nothing that anybody can say that will make me into, at this point in my life, that will affect me in a way where it creates a negative outcome. Because if that happens, that's my signal to put up the boundary. Right. Because if that's very thing, the way you put me in a situation where, number one, because some people will be like, oh, this is normal. It's like you're going around somebody who's like consistently going to prison, right? Or so consistently in trouble, right? But if that happens, that's where the boundary comes for me. It's like I'm not going to cross that boundary anymore, because now you're telling me that you're putting my life and others in jeopardy, right? And you're willing to do that just to satisfy something that's chaotic, right? So that's kind of like where the boundary, and then and that's where you say no, right? It's that, hey, no. And there's nothing that somebody can do right to me in terms of words other than actions that will make me lose my cool, because I know.
Well, that's the reason why a lot of people are in jail to this day.
Because I know I have a choice.
Someone says something to them that they felt disrespected. Right. And that person was maybe was or maybe wasn't trying to cause chaos. You know, I watch a lot of court shows, Judge Judy and Mathis and Lynn Toller and all that. And almost every situation was somebody did something to disrespect me. That's why I reacted this way, which is why they ended up in court.
And it's crazy how much that costs people. And to me, it's mind-boggling that words coming out of somebody's mouth. and they have no power unless you give it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard that, that made me understand. Whoa, nobody's giving the words power than the person receiving it.
But let's say you're a person who is dealing with that, and you need to react, right? Someone says something to you that is the ultimate disrespect, and us as individuals.
Well, let me ask you. What do you think? Well, I wouldn't ask you that, but
let's say they call you out your name.
Okay, that's fine.
You a man,
right?
And you out somewhere, whomever, and someone called you out the name. They call you something that a man should not be called.
Right.
And you have that's your red button. What is a strategy or a mechanism that someone can do in order to not react emotionally at that point in time?
Call the cops or walk away.
Not someone didn't physically touch you.
As I said, it's like there's certain levels of, like, if somebody calls you out of your name in a certain way, there's certain words that they can't use based upon the law, right? Now you got to call the cops. That's so if they're breaking the law, they're breaking the law, right? Call the cops, right? Or walk away. And that's the hardest part for most people, especially men, to do. It's not a unique situation, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not giving that person any power over you.
Right.
Right? You're walking away from it. Because you have a choice to walk away. Tomorrow, the sun is going to come up tomorrow.
What if, and we're throwing real life scenarios out there.
Right.
What if you run a bunch of folks,
right.
They see this and hear this.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're saying, you got to do something. You can't let somebody just say that to you or do that to you.
Right.
You got to do something. Because, the old you would have done something
right.
about it.
Right.
The new you wants to do something about it.
Right.
And you tell them what? You tell those people who are instigating what?
Right. So nobody has power over me but me. Right? God and me, right? Leave it to God to judge them and walk away. That's the thing about it. Being tough isn't being in a fight or getting into a battle, right? I'm saying, because we all see the results of that, right? It's like, this is where, for me, I've learned, number one, a lot of times the words that people say, as I said, have zero value unless you give it the value. Because it's not being taught, it's not getting given to anybody else but you. It's being thrown at you, right? So for me, it's like, if you can actually take that, process that, and dispel it, that's the power.
Okay.
Right? That's the power that you have, right? So, and that's the hard part for a lot of us to actually deal with, is that we think that because we're around people and people are like, oh, well, you shouldn't let this person disrespect you and this and that. That's cool. At the end of the day, you're the one who's responsible for your actions.
Right.
Not the people who are telling you to do this.
Right.
You're the one who's going to be responsible for your actions. So it comes down to the choice, right?
So I'm going to let you tell that person, the only person that decides on who's going to react to this is me and God, or God and I.
Yeah.
And I don't answer to no one but to myself and God.
Right. You see, one of the things
that's actually a really good response.
So one of the things that I've learned is, even if somebody's lying about you, right? I've learned that time is God's way of revealing everything.
Say that again.
So it's kind of like God. Nobody lies and mistruths and all that stuff. It doesn't hold up over time.
What if you feel God's taking too long?
Well, if God's taking too long, and it's going to, trust me, it's going to come at the right time. Right. Because all you gotta do is focus on yourself. Forgive them, focus on yourself.
Forgive them, focus on yourself.
Because that's the hardest part. Because at the end of the day, forgiveness is the hardest thing for most people to do. Right.
How many times do you say you forgive? 70 times?
70 times. Forgive them, and it doesn't mean that you have to be their friend or whatever. But forgive them. Time will deal with it. Because the truth comes out in time. There's no look at what's happening today in today's
Clinton,
world. Right?
I want the truth to come out now. I got to tell you the truth.
Right, but you're forcing something that you're not in control. Right? You're gonna focus on something that you're gonna fight. Where it's kind of like this: shift the energy. Like you can put a lot of energy into trying to expose somebody or betting yourself. Which one would you choose?
Well, you got to bet on yourself.
No, better like
oh, you got to better yourself.
Yeah, better yourself.
Yeah.
So I mean, of course, I'm selfish. I'm going to be as selfish as I can with my energy because I don't have it to waste. Like, I mean, why am I going to waste my energy and trying to prove somebody wrong? Try to find out some. That's a waste. You know, energy, like your time that God has blessed you with on this earth, you wasting it to actually try to figure it out. No, focus. And for me, it's like focus on myself. Like, let me take that energy and better myself.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you heard it from Clinton himself. You know,
hey, it takes some time to get to that.
But you know, you're right, because like my mentor told me, I said, "What if I mess up?" He said, "Tomorrow," and that I felt like that wasn't giving me permission to react the way I wanted to react, but it allowed myself to forgive myself for the way I reacted.
Right.
And a lot of times we have to forgive ourselves too.
Because don't give them, I would say, do not give somebody, if somebody's looking to get a negative reaction from you, do not give them that power.
That power.
Yeah.
I got the power. All right. So, and also let's hit on about, you know, the purpose in your transformation. Colossians 3:23 says, work willingly at whatever you do as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people, which is kind of what you're hitting on.
Right.
So let's even hit this in the job point. Your job may not be your dream, but it can build discipline, character, and confidence.
Right.
So even if you're in a situation where you're not at a job and you want to transform that, you want to transform your job, transform your income, transform the people you work with, transfer the time you go to work, the time you leave work, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes you may be in a position where you got to take in that information that you're at and learn from there, and it could build you into the person you want to be. You can transform professionally, often means showing up consistently, learning transferable skills, letting God prepare you quietly. So even if life is somewhat going good, but you're at a professional standpoint where you don't want to be where you're at, God can change that for you too, as long as you work at it as if you're working for God and not for others. So even in suffering, purpose changes how we endure and grow.
Right.
And we'll say that one more time. Even in suffering, purpose changes how we endure and grow.
Right.
God doesn't waste seasons. We do when we stop learning.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. One of the things that I always repeat is the great Dr. Niles Monroe. Right.
Niles Monroe.
Well, it's a great Dr. Niles Monroe. And
I like
where he said, where purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable. Right. So and the thing about it is that from what you realize is that there's so many people who don't understand or know their purpose. So that's why they're actually abnormally using themselves.
I actually have
or abusing others.
I actually have a belief about purpose that so many disagree with. I think purpose is that whatever is in front of you at that current moment, you do it to your best of your ability.
Yeah.
I think it's more than just God's called me to be this great leader of people, although that might really be I'm not saying that's not a purpose. I'm just saying that you shouldn't ignore the things in front of you because you said it's not related to my purpose. Everything's related to your purpose.
Absolutely.
When you are doing the best whether that's from washing dishes to leading 1,000 people in the business or whatever on the military front. It's about being the best version of yourself at that moment.
Absolutely.
And doing the very best job you can do at that moment. And then if you can't do it at that moment, then you do it the next moment. So that's how I feel about purpose. And that really goes into, whatever you find it to do, which is interesting because it says whatever you find it to do.
Right.
Do it as if you're doing it towards God and not towards people.
Right.
You ever seen that movie Creed?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when the movie Creed, he took that where he was at, the one Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
He took where he was at and he transformed where he wanted to be off of daily training. In the beginning of the movie, he was working for like a financial company, doing something he didn't want to do. But at night, he was going to Tijuana and doing boxing. When his mom said don't do it, when the trainer he went to said don't do it,
right,
he said, you know what, I'm going to follow my purpose. And he worked every day at becoming great.
Right.
I'm flying to Philly, meeting with Rocky.
Right.
And Rocky's going to train me, and Rocky didn't know who he was.
Right.
I mean, he was tunnel vision. So whatever you find to do with all that mind, body, soul, and strength.
Right.
Because it's about taking it day by day, not just about where you're going to end up. He wasn't the champion. He wasn't even in the championship in Creed 1.
Right.
He didn't win the heavyweight championship till Creed 2.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And he lost. He almost lost that until they got disqualification.
Yeah.
So sometimes, your journey is not in the first movie. Sometimes it's in the sequel.
Yep. And his purpose was to knock people out.
Yeah.
Now, and at the same time, so I'd say this. I mean, when I would go back to what we were saying about call cops or walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm talking about words, right? I'm not talking about physical assault, right? Because there's a huge definition and a huge line between those two, right? Because if you have to defend yourself, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, words are not gonna. It's not physical. It's not. Yeah, you have a choice to walk away, right? Until that, you have to be able to defend. So, but yeah, I just wanted to put that out there.
So, one of the last things we're talking about is, because we got 6 minutes left, is long-term transformation, the whole process. Philippians 1:6 says, "Am I certain that God, who began the good work within you, will continue his work until it's finally finished?"
Mm-hmm.
So that means you're not late, you're not failing, and you're becoming.
Right.
Transformation, it could be, you've seen that visual where people say transformation looks like a straight line.
Right.
But they show that it's really not. It's a zigzag.
Right.
And it's going up, down, and all around, and this and that.
Yeah.
So it's not linear. It goes in different directions.
Right.
And a lot of times we can use other people's life examples, showing that their life didn't start off perfect.
Right.
And realize that they overcame too.
Right.
I do want to make a disclaimer that just because you see someone's life that's similar to yours,
right,
doesn't mean that you'll go through the same struggles or the same situations.
Right.
Which means that if something different happens to them compared to it happens to you,
right,
doesn't mean that you respond differently. It just means that you respond in a way that's best moves you forward.
Right.
And then if you make decisions that is not best moving you forward, then you got to get back on track to start making decisions. Right. Whether that's you making the wrong decision for 10 minutes or 10 years.
Right.
The 10 minutes or 10 years don't define you. It was who you were.
Right. It's also knowing where you started and where you're going to finish.
So,
right.
And it's worth it.
And it's worth it.
So, the journey, read the book, The Alchemist?
Yeah.
Great book. Is it Paulo Coelho?
Yeah.
Coelho?
I forgot his name. Paulo. I mean, I know I have it in my
Paulo
list.
Coelho.
Yeah.
The journey shapes the person more than the destination.
Right.
So, it's not so much, anytime anyone who became something great, it wasn't about winning that fight or winning that game or,
right,
closing that business deal. It was whatever it took to get there.
Exactly.
I heard this business advisor say yesterday, don't fall in love with the outcome. The outcome. Fall in love with the problem. Yeah. He said, fall in love with the problem.
Right.
He says, because once you do, you're able to learn how to fix it.
Right. Yeah. Pretty much. And I mean, and just like anything else, man, as you do it over and over, you're going to get better at it. Life is messy, as we say here. It's non-linear, but it's worth it. Just keep in mind, I'm never going to tell anybody, life is easy work. No, life is very, very messy.
Yeah,
And
it's not
the
easy,
people
it's
who
hard.
are successful, who you're looking at, they had to go through some things to learn how to actually deal with the bigger mess. Because the bigger or the more successful you become,
the more mess you got to
the
deal with.
more mess you gotta deal with.
Yeah.
But that's the training, because some people fool under it.
When much is given, much is
Because
required.
when you're really not prepared to be there, right? And you think, okay, well, you're gonna take the easy route or take a it's kind of like the how you call it, the personality hires, right? When they get there, and I'm using corporate America. Corporate America says this. Now there's certain things called personality hires. Where you get hired because now you have a great personality, not because you can do the job, but because you bring a different energy.
Well, I heard Tom Ford, the designer, says he had to be competent, but he wanted to work with someone that he felt like he can have dinner with.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He wanted. You could be good at what you do, but if you felt like we can't sit there and have dinner together,
Right.
he wasn't going to hire you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, just keep in mind you have a job to do.
Yeah.
And that job is messy. That job is full of stress. And as you said, you have the problems that I when I gave the speech at when I was giving the commencement speech for my graduation back in the when I graduated college, actually, I told the crowds, like, the bigger the problems you can solve when you get out there, is the bigger the checks are going to be. People are going to pay you to solve problems, and the bigger the problems you can solve. So if you're always going to fall under the small ones and be like, oh, this is too hard, it's kind of like you have to shift that thinking. It's not why this is going to happen to me. It's how is this happening for me?
The law of compensation.
Right. How can I solve this? How can I afford this? How can I get this?
Right.
And that's what I try to tell my clients. It's like, buying a house is very, very expensive today, right? I'm not going to say it's not. It's very expensive. It's hard. Sometimes it's crazy to have a goal like that. But you don't ask yourself why. You ask yourself how. How can I get this? How can I afford this? How is this happening for me? What am I going to learn in the process? Right. Because this is a huge goal.
Who do you have to become?
Right. Who do you have to become to get there?
So we're going to close out with James 1, chapter 1, verse 23 through 24. It says, anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in the mirror and forget what he looks like.
Right.
So, it's important that you see yourself daily, you work on these things daily, you meditate, you read, you pray on word and scripture, so we can make sure that it transforms you to the person that you intend to be, and you fulfill that purpose as God fulfills you to be at.
Right.
So we're already at almost 7:00. We want to thank those listeners for tuning in to another episode of Let's Talk About It. I enjoyed tonight's conversation.
This was a good conversation.
Because not only am I a person that enjoys talking about this, but I also am a person that enjoys hearing about this.
Right.
So this was just as much for me as it was to give out today's info. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys same time, same place.
Peace.
In a couple weeks. Till then, peace. We out.